Here today at McKissick Museum, and there's a great new exhibition that's on display right at the moment called A Soldier's Legacy, dealing with Ralph Smith, who was instrumental in country music in the upstate in South Carolina here. Sadler, since you were curating this, why don't you tell us how it came about?
Well, it really came about from a chance encounter with Alda Smith, Ralph's son. It was actually at the first conference that Skatan had, and Alda had, I believe you had your dad's CD done at that time.
That's right.
So the music was done, and a lot of the accompanying history was done in regards to Ralph Smith in particular. So Alda and I started a dialogue, and just the natural next step was an exhibit of this type.
Alda, this exhibition is actually about your daddy. What can you tell us about this?
Actually, it's about my dad and my grandfather also, his wife's dad, Sheila Laws. He brings the Appalachian culture from Tennessee and North Carolina over into the upstate of South Carolina and brings a cappella music and some music that bridges the gap on back into the 1800s. And, of course, Ralph Smith's story begins in the early 1930s. Mm-hmm. He was born in 21 in Greenville, and of course he grew up listening to the crystal radio sets and the graphanola, and we've got the original graphanola here in the room that he listened to his records on and learned some of his music on. So,
yeah, sitting here right here beside us. You were quite unusual as a child. Now I'll say this based on me being a child, not doing these types of things. You actually did recordings of your grandfather and your dad when you were pretty young, right?
That's exactly right. About 11 years old was when the first recordings were made of my grandfather. And I contribute that, again, to my dad, Ralph Smith, seeing the importance of having a home recording device. So he got us our first reel-to-reel tape recorder in 1965, actually December 64, and we started recording my grandfather then in 65 when I was 11 years old.
Yeah. Now, you've produced a couple of compact discs as well from those recordings.
I have. I've got the Sheila Lafayette Laws, Memories and Melodies of Appalachia. And there's about an hour of music on there of a cappella singing of him. And that was done at those recordings when I was 11 to 1972 when I was about 18. So, yeah. And the Ralph D. Smith, Soldier's Legacy CD, was the first one to be produced a couple of years ago by a grant from the Arts Commission.
This is a great exhibition because it's about an individual, but it also kind of opens issues up to what community life was like during those times. And can you comment a little bit on that?
Yeah, it's a show that does focus on one particular family, but at the same time we place it in context, social context, musical context, to kind of show what influenced this family and how this family influenced others around it. You can kind of, as an analogy, think of it as a one flower variety in a larger flower garden. I mean, it's beautiful as a garden, but it's also beautiful as an individual flower. And we tried to hit on that here with early family history and what influenced Sheila Laws, especially his early family roots in the mountains, and then how that migration moved down into the South Carolina upstate, and you have the whole Mill Village connection, then you have the early radio connection, and then the later family influences that Ralph and Sheila passed on to Alda and his three brothers, and they've subsequently passed it on to their children. So it's a fascinating story, and it's remarkable to be able to see it localized into one particular family experience. But we try to relate that to the larger whole, especially early music history.